A 12-point win for Ohio State here at Spartan Stadium. Doug Lesmerises along with Ari Wasserman and Bill Landis. It feels like things have changed for Ohio State now. Everything we thought we maybe knew before, I think maybe we might know for sure a little now, and I think we might know some things that we maybe didn't know before. Ari, JT Barrett was especially a guy who came out. He did not throw the ball well at Penn State. 2 weeks later in a big road test here, he made a lot of big throws. Did you expect him to do that, or was there something about JT Barrett that he showed you something new?
The Penn State game I thought was more, at the time and in the time since, and when taking this game or making my prediction for this game, I thought the Penn State game was more of what JT Barrett really is than the 50-point performances that he put up against some of the bad teams. Now I think we found out that the Penn State game was maybe more the anomaly than the other ones. JT came out and he accounted for 5 touchdowns. He ran the ball more aggressively than I think he's ran it all year. He made some great throws. Of course, there were some miscues. There were some, bad passes. But for the most part, I think that there isn't a game at this point, based on what we saw against Michigan State, that I wouldn't trust JT Barrett to play well in. I didn't think he was capable of coming into a crowd like this and a team that good and putting up the numbers and being as assertive and confident as he was. I think that I was maybe one of the last people to come around on JT in terms of just what he is, and I think that he proved everybody wrong that doubted him tonight, on Saturday night. It was just a great performance that I wasn't sure he was capable of doing against such a good team.
He made a lot of good throws. After one of his touchdowns to Devin Smith, he actually was strutting down the field. He was looking at the Ohio State sideline and taking some steps like he was feeling it. Yeah. Bill Landis, your guys on the offensive line, Ezekiel Elliott, we just talked to all the Buckeyes after the win here Saturday night. He said the game turned when the Buckeyes came out and took the ball down the field right away. What did you think of the run game and the offensive line against Michigan State?
I thought it started kind of slow, and Urban Meyer kind of said the same. I think it was Billy Price got beat, and JT got sacked, and I'm not sure. It might have been the only time he got sacked. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. But that play worried Urban Meyer a little bit, and it kind of alerted me a little bit, too, that maybe the offensive line wasn't going to be able to hold up for the entire game. But that was kind of a blip on the radar. They were strong all game. They pushed Michigan State's defensive line, which is really good, around for most of the game and got big yards when they needed it. And the couple plays that jump out to me in terms of the progress of the offensive line is I think there were 5 short yardage plays, 4 third downs, and 1 4th and 1 from the goal line, or 4th and goal from the 1 yard line, And they got the push they needed. They needed to get yards, and the offensive line created the space that JT Barrett needed to get big yards, get a touchdown, and control the clock and keep Michigan State's offense off the field. So I think that's a huge confidence boost for this offensive line.
One thing that I think is not – he talked almost as long as you do sometimes.
I blacked out and didn't hear a word he said.
One of the things that I think people need to be careful about is Ohio State dominated, in the end, this Michigan State defense. It doesn't mean the Michigan State defense isn't good. We are so accustomed to Ohio State beating up bad teams that Ohio State does something and you say, well, that team's just bad. I don't think the Michigan State defense is bad. I think the Ohio State offense basically did everything it wanted to do for most of the game. JT Barrett put throws right on receivers' hands. They made catches that they did not make against Michigan State in the title game last year. They ran the ball when they needed to, and Ohio State made a bunch of mistakes tonight. Yeah. Some of them were their fault, some of them weren't. The punt hits them in the foot, they lose the ball. They fumbled 2 kickoffs, one they recover, one they don't, but every time they made a mistake, they wound up making a play themselves to get it back. So I think everybody needs to be careful. Michigan State, I think, is absolutely as good as I thought they were coming into this game. And Ohio State, in the end, was clearly better.
It's unbelievable to me how they were able to respond from their mistakes, and I think that's a big thing, and you wrote about that a little bit. It just, even when you look at the Dontre Wilson drop at the goal line when the DB fell, the next play, they hit each other on an out route, same connection, and later on Ezekiel Elliott scores a touchdown. It just seemed like between the turnovers and all the things that went wrong, if you would have told us, all 3 of us, I've got no doubt in my mind, speaking for 3 of us, that Ohio State would make the mistakes that they did with the turnovers and everything else, that they wouldn't have
missed opportunities,
the jumping off sides, everything. I mean, there was a lot of them. I mean, there were a lot of mistakes, even more than usual. So I just think the ability to put up almost 50 points in a mistake-riddled game is almost a testament in itself.
And Bill, you haven't been on the beat all that long. You're kind of new. I've been on the beat a little bit longer. What do you think of Ohio State now? You didn't see them up close and personal when they won 24 straight games in 2012 and 2013. Do you see Ohio State in a new light at all after this game?
I do, yeah. I think you have to. There were a ton of questions with this team. I mean, they won, 7 games in a row after losing to Virginia Tech, and there were still, or 6 games in a row after losing to Virginia Tech, whatever it was. And there were still a ton of questions because they haven't played very good teams. In the Penn State game, I didn't know what to make of it. And a lot of the questions that I had about this team were answered, and I wasn't sure if the offense could move the ball against the good defense. At Michigan State, you said it is a very good defense. This isn't another case of us thinking a defense was good and them not being so good. Michigan State is a top 5 defense nationally. That doesn't happen by mistake, and Ohio State moved the ball down the field on them at will, and I was very surprised by that.
Minnesota, Indiana, Michigan to end the regular season. The only way Ohio State's not going to the Big Ten title game is if they lose 2 of those 3. Because even if they lose 1, they're going to have the head-to-head tiebreaker with Michigan State. So we are going to Indianapolis to cover this team in the Big Ten title game. And now we talk playoffs. We're going to be talking playoffs a lot. We're going to be writing playoffs a lot. I don't know that they are jump in our top 4 right now. They're in the consideration. Absolutely in the consideration, which makes things interesting. So, again, Ohio State, the dominant win. In the end, yeah, I mean, Michigan State made some noise too. They scored some points and moved the ball too, but it was never in doubt really in the second half once Ohio State took that halftime lead. All the coverage here at cleveland.com. Now, in the future, finishing out this regular season and now knowing that there's something else out there beyond this regular season. Here at Spartan Stadium after Ohio State's win, for Bill Landis and Ari Wasserman, I'm Doug Lesmerises for cleveland.com.